the vehicle is now just entering the park, led by an outrider. And they will be coming, and he's expected to be taken to the saluting dais, where he will be accorded some level of respect. We will speak to that when we come to that. But as if you know the Salem Park well, the vehicle and the outrider is coming around the entire, outskirts of the park, circumventing the entire parade to come to the front, where the Commissioner of Police and the British Defence Advisor are both waiting to greet him and escort him to the dais. Today, as we understand it, the acting premier will be, his ADC will be acting Superintendent Bennett Kerwin. And he too, as I understand it, will be a recipient of some sort of award at the end of the ceremony here today. All right, so the vehicle has now taken up its position between the commissioner, and out comes acting premier, Easton Farrell Taylor, as the substantive premier is currently off island on business, as well as the deputy premier himself is also off island. So the minister, Easton Taylor Farrell, is taking up that appointment this morning.
I'm also getting off is his wife.
That is correct, yes. Any points while he gets to the dais?
Major?
Yeah, Mistress Taylor has been taken to her seat by an usher. I wish to comment on the noticeable absence of the Boy Scout on the parade today. It doesn't speak well for what is happening to our young boys, so to speak. But maybe, again, the reduced population might have some negative effect on the possibility of having sufficient numbers of young boys, because I noticed the Methodist Boys Brigade is well represented, and it's possible that quite a number of these youngsters are now drafted in the Boys Brigade as opposed to in the Boy Scout.
Okay, thank you very much. The Honorable Easton Farrell Taylor has now taken up his position on the dais, and he's now accorded a general salute. And during that general salute, the first verse of the territorial song would be played. And I also observed that the Montserrat flag is not flying, but if it was flying, it would have been unfurled at this time. I think there was a problem with the extra flagpole, why they didn't put it up. But there we are, Easton Taylor Farrell taking his salute. And while he's doing so, coming up close behind would be the arrival of the governor, but I think he's waiting his turn until the Honorable Easton Farrell Taylor gets off the dais and is escorted to his seat. So there we go. That's the completion of the general salute,
yes,
according to the acting premier.
And the governor at this time is Governor Adrian Davis, and he's the Queen representative in Montserrat and the commander-in-chief of all local forces. He took up his appointment in April 2011. He was born in the UK, trained as an economist before joining the then ODA, or Overseas Development Administration, in 1974, after serving 2 years as a VSO in Fiji. When the ODA became DFID, Mr. Davis had many overseas postings, including Bangladesh, Thailand, Egypt, and the Philippines, where he was the UK representative in the Asian Development Bank.
Okay, he's now taking up his vehicle is now been brought on the parade square, as we say, and he's now going to be greeted by the Commissioner of Police and the British Defence Advisor. The ADC to the governor today is Acting Deputy Commissioner of Police, Mr. Charles Thompson, and also in the vehicle is Mistress Davis, who will be escorted by Miss Deborah Lewis from the Deputy Governor's office to a seat. Now, playing for time, I think we have about 1 minute to the official start of the parade, and that is at 8:30 when the governor is expected to step on the dais and the formal part of the parade will begin.
Yes, just to finish, Governor Adrian Davis's career, he was posted to China, where he was working on development issues and overseeing the DFID program in China, as well as on Cambodia, Indonesia, and Vietnam. So he has a long history with the Department for Development. He's now taking his walk to position on the saluting dais.
Yes, okay. And so what we see now is the formal comprising of what we consider to be the inspection party. Governor Davis will step on the dais, and standing to his right will be the defense advisor, and then the commissioner of police, and then his LEC deputy commissioner Thompson. So the formal part of the parade is now commencing, and the parade commander is now bringing up the troops to the present arms, where general salute is now given to the governor. And in this case, the first 6 bars of the national anthem is played, and the Union Jack is unfurled. We are hoping that our microphone can bring us some of the music from the band, if we are able to do so. If not, we'll continue. Yes, so the formal part has begun, as I said, and the governor has now received his salute. The parade commander is now going forward to the governor to introduce himself and to invite him to inspect the parade. Now, this is where I was saying before that all the information provided to the parade commander by the sergeant major, who count all the persons on parade before they came on, the parade commander is now expected to repeat it accurately to the governor, at the end of which he will invite the governor to inspect the parade. The inspection will begin with the Guard of Honor, that's the armed guard on parade, then all the other organizations represented here. Maybe this is a good time to touch on the organizations that are here on parade this morning, supporting the armed guard. We have on the far right representatives from the Montserrat Fire and Rescue Services. Then we have representatives from the Montserrat Prison Service. We have representatives from, I think it's the first Montserrat Girl Guides. And we also have representatives from the first, second, and third Montserrat Brownies. And then we have a contingent of the Boys Brigade looking quite sharp this morning in their white gloves. Then we have a contingent from the Girls Brigade, and a contingent, as always, from the Montserrat Red Cross. All right, so the inspection party is now taking up their position. They're marching now to start the inspection. And at this point, I will ask Major Lynch for his comments.
Well, the inspection consists of an inspection party, which at this time you have the governor, His Excellency the Governor, you have the Commissioner of Police, and of course the British Defense Advisor is invited to accompany them, and
the Premier.
And the acting Premier at this time.
Right, and so what the governor is doing is coming down the front ranks of the what we call the armed guard, and it is all done in his honor, so he could choose to stop, speak, or have a detailed look at anyone that he's inspecting. And very often they do that. As a young soldier on parade, it's an honor when the governor or whoever it is taking the inspection stop and actually speak to you. And of course, you got to make sure that your response is quite in order, especially when you're responding to someone of such a senior position.
But what are some of the things, though, that he would be asking or saying to you, having been in those positions before?
Well, generally, as you come down each troop, the commanding officer will say, "Here we are, sir, the front rank of the Royal Montserrat Defence Force," and then he may stop and speak to a member and ask the member, "Well, how are you this morning, and how long have you been in the force?" And of course, you have to remember that and make sure that you have your answer properly prepared. We see the Red Cross first aiders are now being called into action. We have got one youngster who doesn't seem to be feeling well this morning, and as we know, it's one of those things that happens almost on every parade that we have. Yes. Yes, as to the first aiders, I think it's one of the young Boys Brigade.
Boys Brigade.
Yes. But the thing about this, as a person who have been very experienced in this thing, is that sometimes, no matter how you tell the youngsters, please have your breakfast, make sure you drink your tea and so on. The anxiousness and eagerness to get on parade. Sometimes they don't want to be late, so they skip their meal and come on parade, and sometimes cannot stand up to the rigors of standing at attention for a long time or from the heat of the day.
Yes.
And it is expected to be a bit warmer than normal because the parade starting at 8:30. Mr. Skerk?
Okay, the inspection continues, and the governor is coming down the front rank of the contingent, the various contingents. He stopped at the Girls Brigade, and he's asking a few questions. As was mentioned before, he tends to stop, and especially I found the governors tend to stop at the children, those children, and ask them a few questions. It's progressing quite smoothly. He's now going up the rear rank. He's
Red
by
Cross.
the Red Cross at the moment. The rear rank of the Girls Brigade. Okay, he has stopped at the Girls Brigade. He's now passing the Boys Brigade. I'm looking to see whether he stop and asks a question. I think he is making progress quite quickly, recognizing that we started at half an hour late already.
Yes. Quite in order, and I'm sure he too is conscious of the heat of the day, so he probably would not ask as much questions as he would have normally done in the early mornings. Let's talk about the music this morning. Again, we have a small drum corps made up of members of the Royal Montserrat Defence Force and the police service, and then we have what we call the wind instruments being played by a group of persons trained by Mr. Herman Cupid Francis. And they're providing fairly good music there. As I say, it's because of the distance away from us, way out in the middle of the park, that we're not in a position to mic it too well. But they're playing some very good songs, especially Montserrat tunes. Tunes that we're very familiar here in Montserrat.
Yes. But maybe the Major Lynch may wish to speak on the band and the service of the band in this.
And the previous service of the band as well, yes.
Well, as I've mentioned earlier, actually I make mention of it on several occasions. I remember on one attachment in the United Kingdom, the regimental sergeant major at the part where I was trained always insist that the band come out and support the people who are doing the marching. He says it's criminal to march without music. And we are happy that after the disbandment of the Montserrat Defence Force, that someone in the community was like-minded enough to see that the need for a band, and Cupid Francis, with the help of what we then called Turning Point, have started this little band called
Small Beginnings.
Small Beginnings. And they're really going from small beginnings to something more substantive. And we do appreciate them and congratulate them for the effort.
Yes, but the band has had a long history. The Montserrat Defence Force Band has had a long history. Started with Grell, continued with Major Brown and Captain Vernon Leroy Buffon, who is ill at the moment and is in Anguilla. Peter, could you just...
Yes, okay, thank you very much. So the inspection is now complete, and the governor has now returned to the salute in Diaz. This is where the parade commander would thank the governor for inspecting the parade and certainly ask him or hope that he found everyone in order. And he then seeks his permission to continue the parade with what would be a drill display followed by the march past in slow and quick time. So he has now reported and was given permission to continue. So he's now going to take up his position. Around this time then, normally the governor will be taken down from the dais to a point where he can probably stand in the cool and observe the precision drill.
Yes, talking about the band, the Cadet Corps Band started by Lieutenant Grell in 1935. The RMDF Band was actually started in 1939. After Lieutenant Grell left the island to go to serve in World War II, Major Vincent Brown actually took over and actually continued the band. Continue.
All right, so now we're getting ready for the precision drill. The commission or the unit commanders for the Armed Guard has now taken up a position off the parade square or away from the rest of the troops to give space for the display that is about to take place. So, and luckily they're taken position a little bit in the shade on the eastern side, lucky for them. And now we are waiting the instructions for the Armed Guard to proceed with the precision drill. And on this occasion, everyone in the Armed Guard will be participating in this drill, and it is something that I know they have was practicing for the last 2 weeks, so we're hoping that it goes well today. So I will try my best to describe what is taking place here for those who are listening to us on the radio. The sergeants from all 3 units are taking up a position in front, directly in front of the DS, while the cadets will turn left and the defense force turn right, and they now join directly amongst the police unit. So what we have in front rank is the unit is the first half of the Montserrat Defense Force, then the police front rank, then the cadet front rank, then the defense force rear rank, police rear rank, and the cadet rear rank. And they're now carrying out certain arms drills and turning to take up some position where they will form a shape from which we hopefully can get a good view looking down on the parade from here. But the entire precision drill is done in slow time, and the regulation pause for this purpose has been extended to what we say to a much longer pause by adding an extra move. So what used to be what is normally a slow-paced pause of 2-3 is now done in the timings of 2-3-4. So they're slow marching, and they'll be forming a sort of a diamond shape. And bearing in mind that everybody is participating in this, so the colors look rather spectacular from here looking down. We've got, as I said before, one of the ranks of the defense force leading off, followed by the rank of the police service, then the cadet corps, followed again by another rank of the Royal Montserrat Defense Force, and then the police, then the cadet. So at the end of it, what we'll see coming out would be a diamond shape.
And it's important to say that this is all happening without any extra order being given.
That is correct. One order is given at the start, and that is to your duties march, and everything will be done by timing. And as we heard from Major, it is punishment to do this drill without music. So the drum corps and the band is assisting by playing as they go along. So they're still continuing slow marching, and I think at the end of it they're going to form what is expected to be a diamond shape, and then I'll speak to what they do while they're at that shape. But let me say that this precision drill is something that we try to do every year. It is it's the only part of the parade that we are allowed to change. It is actually a display put on for our guests and for the public looking on, failing that everything else is literally set in stone.
So why do you have the flexibility in this precision drill?
Right, because it's actually a display. And so what we do, we have, especially some of the younger minds on parade, like the sergeants, and in particular young Calvin Lewis, who has been doing it for the last 2 years, to put his mind together and come up with something that should last no more than 5 minutes.
Okay, Major, let's just take your
Actually,
input.
it was first introduced for the Queen's Silver Jubilee in 1977. I was then Sergeant Major, and it was my duty and responsibility to come up with a precision drill, which of course was much more elaborate because of the fact we had larger numbers, so you had to come up with something that would, where most of the ranks were able to take part.
So how has it evolved though, Major? You've been in the military for what, 38 years or thereabout?
Thereabout. As I've said, it was the Queen's Silver Jubilee, and we felt it was important to do something a little special on that occasion. So in addition to the normal slow march and other drills that we did on Queen's birthday, this was introduced for the first time in 1977, and it has continued from that time to currently.
Okay, so what we're seeing here now is that they have now formed the diamond shape, and to get a good view of what's going on, they went down on their knees, those who were in the diamond shape, so you can see the formation of the sergeants in the center. What they're doing, they're changing arms now, again, as I say, at a much slower pace than normal, and presenting arms. So the entire display, all done to timing, is looking excellent from our vantage point. And we're hoping that those of you who are watching it via the live video stream can have an appreciation for what the troops are doing here. It is not an easy task to bring the units together twice a week for the last 2 weeks or 3 weeks or so to practice this and bring it off in such spectacular form this morning.
And no matter what you do during the week, this is the day, this is show day. So you try to be as precise and in movements as you possibly can. You don't want to make a mistake.
It's like acting really. You have to remember your lines, or if not, the whole process will be flunked. And,
Yes.
So it's necessary for each member, each actor on the stage to remember their line and their part. And so far it is going quite well.
Yes, and so excellent. We saw the drills, especially the sergeants in the middle, passing around their weapons and were able to collect it and get it back to them in correct timing without any flaw at all. So it's quite a bit to see. Apart from those in the diamond shape doing one thing, you have those in the middle carrying out another display. So they're now getting back into the full diamond shape. I think that the main part of the display we have just passed us, which is the combined movement of those in the diamond shape and the sergeants in the middle.
Interestingly though, the Queen celebrates 2 birthdays each year. Her actual birthday on April 21st and a public ceremony in June which marks the occasion with a Trooping the Color parade. Why so? April 21st. Major?
Well, that's her actual birthday, in other words, when she was registered as being born. But in the British tradition, they normally, should I say, stage certain activities to suit the weather. And June being the most favorable time of the year because it's almost midsummer, so to speak. You'll have the public display in June. And this is what has happening down through the ages. June has been selected as the time for the official celebration of Her Majesty's birthday.
And we are seeing a great display of precision here as the troops are now reforming. They are now coming back from what was the diamond shape, and they're coming into one straight line where they will take their point from before they actually go back to the 3 units that they were at the formal part of the parade.
Okay, I have a little history again, Major. If Queen Elizabeth II, if she lives to September 11th this year, without abdicating, she will become the longest serving monarch in British history. And of course, this surpasses the reign of 63 years and 217 of Queen Victoria, who became Queen in June 1837. So September 11th would be a significant milestone.
That is correct. Of course, she would be much older than Queen Victoria was at the time when she left the throne.
Okay.
Yes, so we see the troops are now forming back from that splendid display. The cadets are now taking up their position on the left side of the parade, the police in the middle, and the defense force on the right. So by just looking at it, all been done without any orders being given, and all been done at this slow march. As I say, looking down on it from here, it's looking real good.
And if I may say, they did it splendidly. I think they did quite well. There was no outstanding errors, so that was well done. And given that the short space of time in which they have to do this drill, they have done well.
I think the round of applause from the audience around here signal how very much they appreciated the display this morning. So the parade will continue, where the unit commanders will now take up their position in front of their respective units, and the units will now prepare to continue with the formal part of the parade, again, as we say, in this case, with the march pass in slow and quick time. So it will take some while to get into that formation, And while they do so, we'll continue with a bit of history.
Yes, and let me talk a little bit about Commissioner of Police. He's out there on the He's on the parade, and Commissioner Foster took charge of the Royal Montserrat Police Force on July 13th, 2007. He took over from Commissioner John B. Douglas, who retired at the same time. Mr. Foster is a career police officer and spent all his working life in the RMPF. After joining the police force in 1984, he rose up the ranks quite quickly, I must say. The only rank that he did not hold was that of a sergeant. He holds the Queen's Golden Jubilee Medal, Police Long Service Medal for 18 years of service, plus the class for 25 years of service. And he also holds the Queen's Diamond Jubilee Medal.
Thank you very much, Captain Skerritt. So the Armed Guard is preparing now to get themselves in formation, and they retired and is now forming what we call the close columns of platoons. And in that format, they will do their dressings, and all dressings are done pretty much in recognition of the saluting days and that focal point. So they're now preparing themselves, because for the march past they need to be looking impeccable and very much in line. So this is the time where the sergeants on parade will show off their voices for the purpose of the dressings. The sergeant for the Defence Force today, we have Sergeant White. His day job is with the DMCA, and I think for the police is Sergeant Antoine, and the young lady for the Cadet Corps, I think her name evades me now, but she is looking quite sharp, I must say, as the sergeant dressing off the Cadet Corps. It's a pity we're not mic'd on the outside so we could hear them giving the orders. This is normally a fun part for the audience, as you hear them clapping for the young female sergeant there as she's dressing the Cadet Corps.
And you would have noticed that the different platoon, they are dressed in order. The last platoon would be the first to give the aisles front, followed by the second and the third. Once this is completed, the sergeants would return to the center rear of their respective platoons, so that they will be directing the march as they go forward. They are the ones who are in the center of their respective platoon, and the order will be given for breaking in for slow time, and they will control their respective platoon as they march forward.
Okay, the other point to note here is that before the governor inspected the parade commander will just refer to everyone generally as the parade. However, after inspection and receiving the approval of the governor, the Armed Guard is now referred to as the Guard of Honor, because the governor has given his approval of them. So they now started the march past process in slow time, and they're going south of the park, and on the southern end, then they will do a form and come around all in line, and then come down on the eastern side, passing the dais, which at that point we hope the governor will be on it to take the salute. So it's really spectacular. Again, this is one part of the parade. A lot of people like to see the actual Armed Guard doing the slow march on parade. I know, as in my time many years ago, I was commanding this thing. Is it that far, or is it up to last year? This is one of those points where everyone tried to do their best, and because you're doing the march in slow time, any mistakes can easily be identified by anyone. So you try your best to make sure you stay where you should be, or if you do make a mistake, try and cover it up to the best of your ability.
That is true, and as the ADC to the governor, you expect that the ADC will be monitoring the governor's move and making sure that he gets into position and do all the things that he needs to do, because you are the one who instructs him and makes sure that he performs.
And that is correct. Yes. Right. So on this occasion, each of the Armed Guard is under the direction of their respective unit commanders. So Second Lieutenant Foster is leading the Defence Force contingent, and he brought them around safely on the south side and getting them all in place in preparation for marching past the governor. Now, while they're marching past in slow time, the salute is given at the open order. So as soon as they step off, he will also give the order for the unit to open, to do an open order, which is to make put more space between the front rank and the second rank, so that when they salute, the governor can have a good view down the ranks of all the officers and seeing that they are keeping a straight line.
Yeah, the order to form is one in which the platoons will change their direction without changing their formation.
That is correct.
In other words, they will be going along in line and they will change to a new direction without changing that particular formation, and that is what makes it look so beautiful. And the beauty here is to be able to march in line. And let me tell you, it is not an easy thing to march on grass. In the larger parade grounds where they have paved parade grounds, you can hear the footstep of your neighbor, and therefore you can always correct yourself. It's not so marching on grass. So we have perfected this over the years because we have no other choice. We have no other open space to parade other than the parks that we use for various sports. And therefore you would have noticed that even the Royal Highness Duke of York commented on how well we march on grass, and we have been doing this for years and almost have it to a perfection at this point in time. Not quite there yet, but we will get there.
Right, so we have just seen the police contingent passing the governor, giving the eyes right, and now the inspector is giving them the instructions to do the eyes front. Coming up is the Cadet Corps, and they're now preparing to pass the governor. One officer, Darian Darrow, has just given the eyes right, and the young kids that make up the Cadet Corps looking quite sharp this morning in their khaki outfit with their red patches on their pockets, are looking quite sharp, I must say. In front, Mr. Foster, of course, has to be very careful. He doesn't mark too much time and allow the others behind to catch up on him. And I think he's doing very well in keeping the Defence Force contingent in good space.
But I have to say, and look at the commitment of Sergeant Jubri there, who has been with the Defence Force for a very long time, and he is the right marker at this particular point in time, and he's doing pretty well.
Yes, he's the longest serving member currently of the Royal Montserrat Defence Force. He is the quartermaster, and he's the jack of all trades, as we would say. And the fact that he's willing to serve and be even on parade here this morning is a testament to his dedication to the Royal Montserrat Police, Royal Montserrat Defence Force. Right. So here we go again. We have the police coming around, and they're on the northern end, and they're doing the form to take up the position behind the Defence Force, as they're now going to be going down south again. And this is the point where they're trying to chip it a bit so the Cadet Corps can catch up. It is in this formation, while going down on the western side of the parade square, that the parade commander will change and the marching from slow time to quick time. And the crowd is giving a roaring applause of appreciation for the performance of the Cadet Corps as they're now coming down on the northern side of the park. And I must say they're looking rather sharp indeed. And the warrant officer himself in front, Darian Darrow, who was recently promoted to that rank, I think is also doing the Cadet Corps quite well. So they're all now getting ready now to go down on the western side of the parade square, with the cadet just now doing their last form, and in doing so they are waiting the instructions from the parade commander to march past, to change from slow time to quick time. Now when that order is given, everyone else on parade will participate in the march past. So and that will be a sight to see, where we have all the other units on parade marching past His Excellency the Governor in quick time.
Of course, the armed guard will continue to march past in line, whereas the other bodies on the parade will march past in file.
That is correct. And there we go. Yes, it's one of the most complicated orders to give as parade commander. because you're trying to give it on what we say on the right foot, on the correct, on the correct foot, so that they can break into it properly in proper military style. But then the parade commander is never wrong. So if he gives it on the other foot, it is for the troops on parade to correct themselves and get on with it. But when it's given on the correct foot, it looks like a sweet piece of drill when the troops break from slow time into quick time. And you know, that's one of those things where you always get an applause from the crowd around. So everybody is now marching to the quick time. The armed guard is now moving forward, and the rest of the parade are marking time, getting the paces together with a view to follow on from the Cadet Corps as the march past is now converted to marching past in quick time.
And I think they're marching past to the tune of when the Saints go
marching in. Quite, yes, it's quite appropriate, I must say, yes. Right, so we have the contingent of the fire service now following on from the Cadet Corps and followed by the prison officers from the prison service. Coming down on the eastern side, directly in front of His Excellency the Governor, we have got the Defence Force contingent now doing the eyes right in quick time. And the Governor recognizing them by giving them a slight bow, giving them a nod of approval, as we would say. And so Mr. Foster is doing quite well with his unit there. The parade commander, even though he's marching in front of him, takes his instruction on this occasion from Mr. Foster for the purpose of uniformity. And here we have Inspector Williams marching past now the Governor with the police unit. Again, another excellent performance by the unit from the Royal Montserrat Police Service. Coming up behind is the Cadet Corps.
Right turn and a right wheel.
Right. Coming up behind is the Cadet Corps, and Warrant Officer Darian Dower is now giving the eyes right. Back to the front. After this march past, the troops will now do a right turn, and then a left. Two left wheels, and they're now coming back to take up their position on the baseline, marching in 5. Right, so the Defence Force contingent is taking a position. Coming up behind the Cadet Corps, we have got the Montserrat Fire Rescue Service. They have just did their eyes right. The prison officers are now doing their eyes right, and then we have the representative of the 1st Montserrat Girl Guides doing their eyes right also. And then we have the combined 1st and 2nd Brownies being led by Miss Winspear, and then
Camille Winspear.
And then the guides, the Brownies from Lookout, have been led by Miss Ariana Science, and following up with 2 of the adult leaders. Then we have the Boys Brigade looking quite sharp with their white gloves and marching all in unison, doing their eyes right now. And I say that they're looking quite sharp. I know they're preparing to host a big event here in Montserrat coming up very soon. I think it's a regional camp for Boys Brigade from the region. All will be coming to Montserrat, and I can see that they're definitely putting something into it. Then the Girls Brigade has now carried out their eyes right to the Governor, and the Governor has recognized them. And last but not least, in the marching part of the parade, we have got the Red Cross First Aiders, led by I forget his name now.
I remember the last name,
Okay. Mohammed, yes. Looking quite sharp. So everybody's now marching back to what we call the baseline, which is where they were for the parade, and taking up their positions. Everybody will halt and continue to face south until the parade commander takes charge of the entire parade again. And the crowd is cheering as the young kids just passed the larger part of the crowd here this morning. The Brownies, and followed up by the Boys Brigade and Girls Brigade. And they're looking quite sharp, I must say.
But Major, in the past, the governors used to wear a felt hat, and they took off the felt hat as opposed to bowing.
Actually, long time ago, the governors were dressed in uniform. They're actually dressed in the white uniform because, fortunately, most of them were maybe ex-Navy personnel, so they were dressed in a uniform with their pea caps and so on. And then after that, they become less formal, and they're allowed to wear their lounge suit and for some of them, it's optional really for them to wear a hat or not to wear a hat.
The issue of the governor's uniform really, I think, was a cost-cutting exercise by the FCO. As we understand it, the cost for a uniform for a governor back then was something between £7,000 and £9,000, and especially the ostrich feathers that they are known for in their caps. So I think the FCO then went on to say that if particular territories wish to have the governor continue in uniform, the territories themselves will have to pay for it. And I think the only territory two territories that still has the governor in uniform is Bermuda and the Falkland Islands. Those are the two territories that still have the governor wearing formal uniform.
But they have moved away from the military governors rather, and they have moved now to civilian, really. The persons coming out of the Foreign Office and so forth. So even if they were to get the uniforms, they probably would.
Okay, so back to what's going on here in the Parade Square. Everybody has now taken up their position as to where they were, and they're now being dressed to make sure they're properly aligned. The Sergeant Major this time is giving the formal instructions for everyone to take up the correct positions, make sure they're straight before we continue with the other part of the parade. The Sergeant Major Williams, a feature on these parades in recent years, he does have the voice. He reminds me of myself to carry across the square that everyone on parade can hear him clearly. And of course, it is his job to make sure that everybody on parade is in their rightful position. So what we have now, we're now going on to the other part of the parade where the royal standard will be unfurled. On this occasion, the governor steps off the dais and stands at a position facing the flagpole that carries the royal standard. And that
facing east.
And it's facing east, yes. And that now, the unfurling of the royal standard pretty much represents the presence of Her Majesty the Queen on parade. So the governor is not the one taking precedence at this time, but the Queen's personal flag, the royal standard, is being prepared for unfurled. In doing so, however, the Union Jack and all other flags on parade are to be lowered, and when that is done, the royal standard is unfurled. In preparation for that, the full national anthem, all two verses of it, will be played, and this time the salute that is given is a royal salute in recognition of the royal standard.
And it's assumed that the Queen is there.
That is correct. So you see at this time there's no one standing on the dais. The governor himself is facing the flag and is waiting. The salute is given, and the flags will now be, the royal standard is now formally unfurled after the Union Jack has been taken off the pole. And so we are now into that part of the parade where everyone, in respect to the symbolic presence of Her Majesty the Queen, everyone would expected to stand at this time. And again, this is all the formal recognition of the Queen's birthday. The troops on parade, in particular the Armed Guard, has just given the royal salute. They're now going to be getting themselves in a position to fire the feu de joie or fire of joy as the formal celebration of the birthday celebration. So the Armed Guard, in an effort to do that, they are unfixing the bayonets. You cannot fire the blank rounds, as we call it, with the bayonets fixed. You use the bayonets when you're doing formal salutes, and for the purpose of firing, they have to remove the bayonets. So the parade commander has given them the instructions to remove bayonets, and also for safety purposes, he will give instructions for the troops, the Armed Guard, to even put more space between them. So you tell the officers to take post. The rear rank of all of the Armed Guard will take an extra pace backwards, and the contingent commanders will take an extra pace forward, so that when the troops stand in load, if there's any mishap, no one will be injured. And there goes the order for them to stand in load. And so the Armed Guard, which is comprised of the RMDF, the Police Service and the Cadet Corps, have just loaded their first round into the chamber of their weapons, and they present it. And there we go for the first volley. Right, a rather lengthy first volley. Normally, it's meant to be a much quicker one. However, after the first volley, the first verse of the national anthem is played while the troops remain in the standing load. And then that is now completed. So the troops will now be given instructions again to reload, because this is done 3 times. So they're now preparing to load another cartridge in their weapon, and all has to be done in a safe way to make sure there are no mishaps. And then they present again. Yes.
No problem. You realize that the parade sergeant major is there watching under the watchful eye.
That is correct.
Making sure that
making
the
sure
rifles-
everybody's done it correctly.
Yes.
And you see, all this is done with the governor's back turned, and the entire inspection party back is turned. Everyone is facing the royal standard. So here we have the second verse of the national anthem being played, again with the troops remaining at the present. I remember as a young cadet many years ago, when we used to actually fire the old 303 weapons, this used to be a very strenuous time for your shoulder, in particular with the butt of the rifle fixing on your collarbone. Yes, so you can't wait for this to be over to get down. So here we go, they're presenting for the 3rd time. Third volley.
And I dare say the first volley is always all right, but once you get to the second and third, then
Yes.
your arms start tiring.
Oh yes. And on this occasion, one of the reasons why it's get tiring, the band is now going to play the entire national anthem from beginning to end, all 2 verses. So it's a much longer period of holding the weapon on the shoulder. Again, all this is done to mark the occasion of the Queen's birthday. This is the formal salute being given to Her Majesty the Queen. She's not here in person, so it is the royal standard that is being unfurled to represent her here. Yes, so we're doing fairly well. So that part of the parade is now finished, and the troops, the armed guard, have been told to unload. And they have to work the mechanisms of their weapon quite a number of times to ensure that all the empty cartridges come out and that the weapons are safe to continue with the rest of the parade. Once that is done, they have been told to order the arms by the parade commander, and then he will undo what he did before by putting the troops back where they were, and telling the officers to take post. So the rear rank will take a pace forward back to the original position, and the unit commanders also return to the position. Now, to continue the rest of it, they have finished firing the volley. They are now going to return their bayonets on their rifle, fix the bayonets in preparation again for another royal salute. So it's all part of a drill. So the officers are given a chance to fix their bayonets and give them some time to make sure they have it done correctly before they're brought back to attention. Now, this is where the troops, all troops on parade, all male on parade, are expected to remove their headdress, where they'll formally give 3 cheers to Her Majesty the Queen. Ladies are not allowed to remove their headdress on parade, so they would not take off their headdress. They will only shout the hooray as required.
Major, is there any significance why the females would not be allowed to?
It's not a matter of being allowed, they're not required to.
They're not required
it's
to.
normally natural. Even for a long time, your lady can go into court with, or even with church with
their dress.
their hat on, whereas in the case of men, we are required to remove our hats or whatever have you.
It's keeping it with decorum.
Yes, indeed,
respect,
indeed.
respect.
Yeah.
Respect.
So there we just saw everyone on parade, and including those in the crowd who wish to join in, where we give 3 cheers to Her Majesty the Queen on the celebration of the 62nd year of her reign. 62nd year, yes, of her reign, and that is the formal sign of appreciation from everyone here to Her Majesty the Queen.
Yes. Major, she's going to be, 88. She has just reached her 88th
Yes,
birthday.
she's now 88.
Yes, so now in recognition of the lowering of the royal standard, all troops are now back at the present arms, where the full national anthem is played and the royal standard is lowered slowly. The sergeant there, I think the Sergeant Wade, is the flag orderly, and one of those things he has to make sure that he works with the timing of the music and that he brings the flag down correctly. And when the flag is
And that it doesn't touch the ground.
doesn't touch the ground. That is correct. And then now once it's down, the Union Jack representing the governor's presence is now unfurled. And if the Montserrat flag was flying also, it would have been unfurled also at this time.
But at this time, it's recognized that symbolically that Her Majesty is not on the parade.
That is correct. So the governor is now the focal point for this part of the parade. So there we go, an excellent piece of drilling this morning by everyone on parade. We have now come to that point where we will be giving out some awards. I checked online this morning, and unfortunately, no one from Montserrat has received any award directly from the Queen herself. But locally, there are two persons who will be getting awards, and I will hand over to Richard Aspin, who will now announce the persons who will be getting awards.
The 2014 medals and decorations from the Royal Montserrat Defence Force, the Efficiency Medal, the award of the medal for 12 years of service, Lance Corporal James Caby.
Yes, and there goes the applause from the crowd. James Caby, an ardent volunteer in the Montserrat community. Served over 12 years so far in the Royal Montserrat Defence Force. He served, I think, longer than that as a Red Cross volunteer. He's well known for that, and his day job is with the Bank of Montserrat. He is also very good on the domino table, so I think he's a very good all-rounder.
And he marched across there quite sharply, actually.
Smartly, I would say.
Smartly, yes.
And he's now
I'd be proud of him. Yes.
right. He's now receiving his medal directly from His Excellency the Governor, in recognition of his 12 years of dedicated and efficient service in the Royal Montserrat Defence Force.
Ladies and gentlemen, Lance Corporal James Caby. From the Royal Montserrat Police Service, the Colonial Police Long Service Medal, the first clasp for 25 years of service goes to Superintendent Bennett Kerwin.
And there we go. We have Superintendent Bennett Kerwin going to the Governor for his award this morning. His duty this morning is ADC to the Acting Premier. He's now receiving his award from His Excellency the Governor. Just to comment on the award, in the police service, they received their long service award, first medal, at 18 years. And then thereafter, every I think 6 years, they get a clasp. So he has now...
Superintendent Bennett Kerwin.
Right. He has now served over 25 years and is now receiving that award, formally here on the parade this morning.
And that concludes the medals and decorations for 2014.
Thank you very much, Mr. Aspin, for announcing that for us and give us a little break during the period. Okay, so the governor is now finished his duties of giving out his awards. He's now returning to the dais for his final salute before he departs. Parade commander is giving everyone on parade the order to shoulder arms, the arm guard, and then they will proceed with the general salute with the present arms, and that constitutes the final salute on parade this morning for His Excellency the Governor. And while he's taking the salute, the band will play the first 6 bars of the national anthem. Excellent. Okay, the parade commander has ordered the troops to shoulder and order the arms, and at this point, the governor will leave the dais. It is the governor's prerogative if he wishes to do so, and I think he's doing so. He will go to the parade commander to tell him what he thinks about the parade so far, and we hope he's saying kind words to him. And in turn, at a later point, thank him for his efforts, and quite indeed, Yes, but you don't assume certain things. Yes, I know that I have been there for many, many, many years, and it is my hope when I see him coming towards me that he's coming with kind words. And
Yes,
of course,
and given that I was the ADC, I would have looked and listened to hear what was said.
that is correct. That is correct. Because my problem there is that the words are not as kind as we would like them to be. As parade commander, it digs quite heavily in your pocket when you go to the officers' mess later. And I know I have been through that, so I know.
You know, someone like Major Bazzi would just ask for a case of Johnny Walker Black.
Right, right. And as a young officer in those times, it took me 2 years' pay just to buy that. Okay, yes, so the governor is now been escorted back to his vehicle, his outrider, and his the official crown vehicle, as we call it, is now taking up its position to receive the governor and his wife. As I said to you, the inspection party this morning comprised of His Excellency the Governor, his ADC, Acting Deputy Commissioner Thompson, the Defense Advisor, and the Commissioner of Police.
And I'm pretty certain that the parade commander out there said,
Right.
almost there.
Almost there, yes.
He's just going to follow the officers
Right.
and then hand over the parade to the parade sergeant major.
Right. The governor is having a quick word with those around him, and I'll be also waiting for Mrs. Suzu Davis to come down, being escorted down the steps to the vehicle, and then as we call it, the crown vehicle will move off, and then it will be the acting premier's turn to be formally escorted to the dais for his final salute and also to join his vehicle. Yes. So far, Major Lynch, what are your thoughts on the parade?
Yeah, I think it was a very smart parade, all in all. Considering the numbers again, as I've said, but it's not time to lament on what has been. I mean, we certainly have to work with what we have, and I think we're doing a good job with it thus far. It is my hope that the band will go from strength to strength. It is so important to have a good band when you're going to expect your soldiers to march smartly. The music play a very, very integral part in the type of drill that you're expected to perform.
Excellent. Let me make a comment about the park itself. I am impressed with the work that was done here at the park. The grass is well cut, and I know it was very dusty on Thursday rehearsal, but I'm told the fire service and the water trucks were here this morning, giving it a good douse to keep the dust down, which has not been a problem, at least not as yet. The acting premier is now stepping on the dais, and the parade commander has brought the parade to attention, and now they're going to give him his departing salute, the general salute, where the first chorus of the territorial song will be played in his honor. Okay, yes, I hope you're hearing it a bit.
I have to say that is a wonderful addition to the parade when we have a territorial song and it's been played, and honor is given to the local head in this particular situation. I think all Monstratians should be proud of this moment.
Right, and this is one of the formal events in which the territorial song is allowed to play. I think if I don't wish to misquote the document, but as of from 2012, I think we were given that permission to go ahead with our territorial song and also to fly the Montserrat flag at formal events. So it is from 2012 we started flying the Montserrat flag, also on parade and other formal events where the governor is present. Normally when the governor is present, it used to be only the Union Jack. But since we have gone into a different relationship with the UK, we are now to fly.
Yes, that, and it's also, all of this is embedded in law.
That's correct.
Codified in law.
All right. So the acting premier himself has followed suit with the governor. He has went and personally thanked the parade commander for his efforts. And of course, I know the parade commander will pass it on to the troops. That's one of the things I know I have to do when the parade goes over for refreshments. The acting premier is dressed in his black suit with his national color dress, a nice, not dress, national color shirt and tie. Excellent. I know Mrs. Farrell also just
white also.
the park.
Yes,
Excellent.
very well.
Yes, looking the part indeed. And so they are both escorted, Mr. and Mrs. Farrell, to their vehicle, and they're given the final salute by the defense advisor and the commissioner of police, and the motorcade will take off. Next in line to come down to enter his vehicle will be the Deputy Governor. On this occasion, however, he's not escorted to the DS, but he's been taken to his vehicle, and Mr. and Mrs. Taylor will be driven away. So we're getting there. The parade commander, as soon as the premier vehicle would have left the compound, will then bring the parade, order the parade to stand at ease, where he'll probably say a few words, and then they will prepare for what we consider to be the march off. I know the troops and parade are looking forward to this part of it, because the marching off will take them to a place where they know they will be refreshed.
Gentlemen, I know that you've touched on some history, the parade, the Queen's Birthday Parade over the years, and Major would have alluded in particular to some concerns that he would have had. First of all, with not seeing the scouts on parade, and of course the band, and it growing from, it's his hope that it will grow from strength to strength. Individually, what are just some of the things that you will like to see done to enhance such parades in the future?
We start with the senior man.
Indeed.
The first thing is trying to encourage young people to join the force. I served 38 years in this thing, and I had no regrets. It prepares you for life. It makes you stand out when you go to places, just by your conduct, your posture, and what have you. And I think it's a good thing. If you look at our little booklet that we prepared for the 100th anniversary, it says the Montserrat Defence was a force for good. And that is how it was then, and that is how it still is. I would encourage all young person to come in, give at least 3-4 years in the Montserrat Defence Force. You'll be preparing yourself to serve your country in whatever capacity that they will require you to help, especially in time of emergency. Remember, no one knows your country like yourself. You may have people coming in to help you from outside, but you're the one on the ground and you will know your country best. So give a little time. Commit yourself to give a little time. The discipline you learn, they will take you through life. And this is my recommendation to the young people who are out there.
Commanding Officer. Major, go ahead.
I want to take this opportunity also to greet all the former Defence Force members wherever you are, especially those of you who have served with me during the height of the volcanic crisis. I wish you well in your endeavors, and I want to make special mention to my friend Ruel Hickson, who tells me that he never turned off Radio Montserrat until bedtime for him, or when Radio Montserrat goes, whichever comes first. So Ruel and Mads, sincere regards to you.
Yeah, Major, do you want to see anything done for these former, past Defence Force members? Anything that you would like to see done in the...
Well, let Captain Skerritt speak to this, because he was the one who was with them last, and actually, had
but you would
quite a bit.
You would want to have your own views too? Or you'll reserve it for the time being?
I will wish to reserve it for the time.
Okay, all right,
yeah.
all right. Captain Skerritt?
Well, first thing, let me say that you asked the question, what would I like to see happen? I think you have to, if you want this to grow, you have to take it in your formative years. So therefore, you would want some form of support at the school level, and also you would want the parents more involved in ensuring that the children come to see these sort of, be a part of these sort of organizations. You know, when I went into the cadet corps, I never wanted to. But once you get in, the activities and the events and the activities tend to draw you in, and in a way, you learn things that you never thought happened. So somewhere along the line, it has to be a part of the program, the development program of the children, and I believe that will help us along a long way.
Okay, the troops and parade are now preparing for to march off. They are now being turned facing the south, and that is the position they'll take in preparation for the march off. But I wish to also give my views on the question that you asked James,
sure,
in terms of recognition for work done. And I wish to look at it from this point of view. in the British Army or any military organization, any active tour of duty, a soldier is rewarded on successful completion with some sort of a medal or something along that line. In my view, I see the work that the Defense Force did through Hurricane Hugo to be an active tour of duty in restoring our country. I see the work done by the Montserrat Defense Force, the Cadet Corps, and all those for service throughout the volcanic crisis to be an active tour of duty. And I still believe that someone can make representation on behalf of all of those persons who serve, so that they can be recognized and be recorded in history as serving our country well. With regards to the Defense Force and even the Cadet Corps, I believe that there are two institutions that should be maintained in Montserrat. Now, I'm going to come from it from a different point of view again. We are known in Montserrat as having the smallest prison population. At the moment, we have 2 serving magistrates, and they have very little work to do in the court. And that is because I believe our people are law-abiding. What should I say? They respect the law, and I believe these are things that they would have inculcated in themselves from youth. So I would say, whether it be the Brownies, whether it be the Guides, whether it be the Scouts, Boys Brigade, I think we should encourage our young people to join one of these organizations. It promotes teamwork, it teaches young people to take orders and to become leaders and to be respected by others as leaders. They understand the responsibility. They understand that when they give them a task to do it to the best of their ability. And I think the peace and tranquility we are enjoying here in Montserrat is a testament to the service that our youths provided have been engaged in the past. So, I mean, that may sound a bit long-winded, but I believe there's a connection to the fact that we have a peace and tranquil Montserrat society at this time.
Yeah,
and to keep it that way, we should continue.
It was very necessary.
Go
ahead,
support
Captain Scary.
what that Lieutenant White has said. The other thing I would think about is really people who have served in that way. You need to look at their life. I mean, in the United States, what happened is where those persons fall through the cracks. You try to assist them in making their lives a little more comfortable, recognizing the service that they have provided over the years. So it's a way of doing it, and probably through the social welfare department, you can look at those persons and see how best you can assist them, especially where
especially those in our community who are destitute. They would have served the country in organizations like the Defense Force and are not doing well at this time. And I think, they've given the best of the years. And it certainly would be a good thing if some form of recognition can be given to them. And let me explain to you. I'm sitting here with my 5 medals on my chest, and I wear them at every opportunity I get to do so, because I'm proud of them. At least it is the state's recognition of my service. But there are many others who serve just like me, and in some cases more than me, and who have nothing to show.
Yeah. Let us just look as we wrap up at the discipline part of being a part of organizations such as these. And I note that Captain Skerritt mentioned about not wanting to go into the cadets when we were going to the secondary school. And I likewise never wanted to be a part of it. But we didn't have any alternative at the time. It was compulsory, and Lieutenant White could attest to that. It was compulsory at the time.
You will realize that I was suspended for a few days.
I was too. I actually was suspended for 2 weeks for not turning up.
But once I get into it, then I start loving it, and I start I love the camaraderie and so forth.
But when you look at it, I mean, at individuals shaping and molding lives, I think it has done a tremendous job in terms of molding our lives. And look at where we are.
I agree with that. And promoting service to your country.
Indeed.
In a military way.
Ultimately.
I'm saying it can be done in many other ways. It can be done in sports, it can be done in the guides, wherever. But I believe, as I said to you, as you mentioned, back in those times, we all had to give service to our country.
Indeed.
And as a secondary school student, the way you do it was through the Cadet Corps. And 2 or 3 years of service. And then people like me who went into it to serve, stayed in it.
Yes.
and continue to serve, right through. So there are those of us who would like it. There are those of us who would have issues with it. But at the end of it, all of us can look back at our time serving our country and look at it with pride and talk about the high points and the low points and know or could speak about the things that we benefited from serving our country.
Yes.
So one thing the commanding officers never tolerate is a no or you can't do it. They always say you get around it, you jump over it, you go around it, something, but
You go through it.
You go through it.
You circumvent
but you
it.
must complete the mission.
Yes.
That is
And
correct.
that is something that is embedded in your head.
Okay, so as we close out, not much happening. Everybody basically would have left. Major, we're starting with you, just to just close out as we leave the Salem Park.
Yes, as I've said earlier, it's quite difficult to march on grass. And when you today were able to see such precision drill and smart marching on grass, again you have to compliment the troop. I suppose it comes from the amount of practice that has been put in, because it's only through repeated practice that you're able to do this type of procedure with this smartness in which it was executed. I want to comment the people who have really put themselves out to prepare the practices and rehearsal for this parade. It's a high point in Montserrat every year in June for people to come out and look at this parade. I remember those days back in Sturge Park when we had hundreds of people who normally come out to watch the parade and mark you, and also to follow the parade through the town of Plymouth. But then again, the band played a very pivotal role in attracting people. Music is like Pipe of Hamilton. They just followed. And therefore, as I've said earlier, I'm looking forward to the day when we can get back a band, whether it's within the defense force or from the school itself. But right now we must give Cupid all the encouragement and assistance that is required for him to continue what he's doing.
Yes, he has made a very, very good effort. Captain Skerritt?
That's all I would like to say is that I want to thank all those who came out on the parade. I think they did an excellent job. Yes, we have reduced numbers, we have a reduced population, but the fact that the institutions remain, at some point I believe it will grow again. What we need is consistency. We need people to come forward and volunteer and to keep it going. If you look back in the history of most of our institutions, there have been a brief hiatus. In the Defense Force, there was one. In terms of the band, in the Cadet Corps, I mean, it went out of operation 3 times and came back. So you have had lulls in the lives of the institutions, but someone has always been there to bring it back. I hope that we never have another hiatus. We need to maintain it and we need to grow it. And we need to get other people involved, we need to get the schools involved, because that is where it all begins. Thank you.
Okay, Lieutenant White.
Standards, however,
just
I
before
want to insist that we maintain certain
Standards.
We're not just going to take anybody because they want to come in. Because, as I've mentioned time and time again, it's better to have a section of well-disciplined persons than to have a whole company of rabble. They're not any help to you. Because in the time of emergency, you just would not be able to depend on them. They'll just hightail and run. But if you have a company, a section or a platoon of disciplined persons, trust me, they'll be able to move mountain.
Okay, thank you, Major. And before you come in, Lieutenant White, Richard, you wanted to say something? No? Okay. All right.
Well, yes, let me just say I'm honored to be in such esteemed group this morning of commentators, Major Joseph Lynch and Captain Skerritt, and of course your humble servant, Lieutenant White here. I wish to say again, I was able to visit the park here when the troops were practicing last week, and I could appreciate the effort that they put on to put on such a splendid parade this morning. The parade, the grounds were very dusty, And I understand the fire service came out very early this morning to dampen it down, to keep it down. So I know there were a lot of work done behind the scenes so that we were able to witness such a splendid parade this morning. Yes, we all appreciate the fact that it's reduced numbers in all quarters. There's not much we can do with it. But I believe that if we have small numbers and they are well trained and are dedicated to what they're doing, we can do wonders. And I do hope that institutions such as the Cadet Corps and the Royal Montserrat Defence Force will continue to serve this country for years to come.
And gentlemen, just to acknowledge that we had the presence of veteran Lionel Nanton, not being so mobile these days, but he made that extra special effort to be with us today.
And he is the sort of person who wants to be on things like this. And I know that he's not doing too well, yes, but we want to recognize his presence, yes.
Indeed.
He served in the Royal Air Force.
Yes, indeed. So, gentlemen, I would like to say how much it was a pleasure to have you with us today. Major Lynch, Captain Skerritt, and Lieutenant Peter White, to just bring this parade live to our listeners in Radio Land, and your expert advice and, of course, experience, has always been welcomed, and we hope that we'll be able to do it again some other time together.
Thank you very much.
Indeed, and just like to let our listeners know that you can view the stream of the Queen's Birthday Parade. We'll be putting it on the website www.zjb.gov.ms, so that you can see it if you would have missed the live commentary and the live stream. So on behalf of our team here today, Major Lynch, Captain Skerritt, John Skerritt, and Peter A. White, Lieutenant, James White Jr., just wishing you a pleasant Saturday.